morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice Radio. So today, we need to be taking a look at the anomalies. You see, I've done a top 10 list for every house in Keyforge, looking at the new cards from Worlds Collide. But I have not actually done one for anomalies. And given that there are exactly 10 anomalies in Worlds Collide, it seemed just a little bit too perfect. So let's take a look at the top 10 anomalies. Or if you prefer me to say it this way, let's rank all the anomalies. So coming in at number 10, soon to be forgotten, Valoocanth. Valoocanth is a creature, 6 power, 0 armor, and when the tide is low, Valoocanth cannot be used. We don't know what that means. Now, by default, the tide is neither high nor low, and they did put a little note in the rulebook, the revised rulebook, but it just says that the tide is a mechanic which isn't used now but might be in the future. Doesn't actually tell us anything. Now, Valoocanth seems to be really confirming that there is going to be a race of fish people in Keyforge in the future. The problem is, Valoocanth is only going to get worse. Because when the tide is a mechanic, if it's low, Valoocanth can't be used. Now, when you fight or reap, you exhaust an enemy creature and each of its neighbours. Which is fine, but it's not stunning. Every time you fight or reap, you're basically exhausting 3 of your opponent's creatures. Which is fine, except we've got other cards that can arguably do this better. Look at something like Persistence Hunting, which we're not arguing, incidentally, is one of the best Keyforge cards. And that lets you exhaust every creature of the chosen house while giving you an amber bonus. And okay, this can get from different houses, but no, ladies and gentlemen, it's underwhelming. Now remember, these anomalies are super rare. They're some of the rarest cards we've got in Keyforge. Incidentally, as a side note, there's no house symbol on the images I'm using. These are the stock images put out by FFG, the makers of the game. And they don't actually have a house affiliation, but they could come in your deck in any house. Valoocanth isn't a bad creature, right? 6 power, and every time you fight or reap, you exhaust 3 opponent creatures. Yes, it's not good enough, though. In at number 9, nearly forgotten, Nizak the Forgotten. Again, 6 power, 0 armor, but one thing I love about this, while fighting, Nizak the Forgotten gains invulnerable. It cannot be destroyed or dealt damage, but it's while fighting, which means that every time you're attacked, you're fine. Every time you attack, you're fine. You never take any damage. It's pretty gosh darned awesome. The problem is, after an enemy creature is destroyed fighting Nizak the Forgotten, you return that creature to its owner's hand. Now, this could be something really fun, like Khalifi Dragon, whereby your opponent is going to really struggle to actually play it again. Or it could be something like Ronnie Risklocks, where your opponent can just play it right back down again, and then steal 2 of your amber. Yeah, this one could really backfire. In at number 8, Infomancer. 3 power creature with elusive. The first time it is attacked each turn, nothing happens. And when you play, you graft an action card from your hand onto Infomancer. Graft is another one of those mechanics that exists only in anomalies for the moment. And then when you reap, you may trigger the play effect of an action card that has been grafted onto Infomancer. So essentially what you do is you whack a card on there, and then it's ready to use later on. Whack a key charge on there, and then when you're ready, you can then just use key charge, and job's a good un. It lets you save a card for when you need it. It's fine, but is this really that much better than just archiving? Or using something like Jar Goggle? Maybe, but not much. It's fine, and all these cards are good. None of these cards are flat out bad cards. Just some of them are not as exciting as we might like. In at number 7, the Grim Reaper. The first and for a while only anomaly we actually saw. 4 power, 0 armor. But if you are haunted, the Grim Reaper enters play ready. And you are haunted if there are 10 or more cards in your discard pile. This is good. Coming into play ready is great. I mean, the only creature we've really got at the moment that always comes into play ready is Silvertooth, and that's a 2 power 0 armor creature. There are a couple in Worlds Collide like Bramble Lynx and Alaka, but they are, if you've reaped this turn or if you've thought of a creature this turn, they're not always that easy to use. Now, when you reap, you purge an enemy creature and a friendly creature. And purging means that they're removed from the game and they ain't coming back. And the thing is that purging an enemy creature is likely to be really useful, but purging one of your own creatures could really hurt. And you have to. Like, when you reap, you have to purge an enemy creature and a friendly creature. So, I love coming into play ready. It doesn't always come into play ready, but you can get 10 cards in your discard most of the time. I love coming into play ready, although to be fair, sometimes you won't, and that'll be kind of annoying. I just don't like that you might have to purge one of your own creatures. That could backfire. In at number 6, the Red Baron. A 4 power creature with an armor. And while your red key is forged, the Red Baron gains Reap, Steal and Amber. And while your opponent's red key is forged, the Red Baron gains Elusive. So there's going to be a point in the game, right, where you're a 4 power, 1 armor creature, where when you reap, you steal an amber, and you've got Elusive as well, and then you're a pretty good creature. As a side note, this really seems to be saying to me we're going to get some kind of space pirate, robot pirate type house in the future. Remember, the anomalies are supposed to be from houses from future sets. So, I don't know how many of them you can really rely on like that. Some of them might just be one-offs. But I do think that there is a very strong implication here that we're getting a pirate house. And that's kind of cool. In at number 5, and this is where we start doing a bit of a jump, right? I think 6 to 10 you can switch around as you like, but I think there is now a bit of a gap between the ones we've seen and the ones we're seeing now. It's Timequake! As a side note, Timequake has Opion, the creature from Wild Wormhole, and that makes me rather delighted indeed. What does it do? Well, it gives you an amber bonus, that's quite nice. And you shuffle each friendly card in play into your deck, and draw a card for each card shuffled into your deck in this way. So what you do is you shuffle everything that you've got on the board into your deck, and then draw that many cards. There are absolutely times that this is going to crush. Like, properly over-the-top crush. Imagine this, right? You've got a bunch of creatures on your board, so you reap with them, and then they're exhausted. So you're not doing anything with them. You then play Timequake, shuffle, 10 cards into your deck, you draw 10 cards, but it's still your turn. So, let's say you're in a Logos turn. You can play all of those Logos cards now. And you can just have an absolute nuts turn. Get yourselves a bunch more amber bonus, set yourself up with some new creatures, etc. Because remember, the creatures of the active house you can use before you play Timequake. You could have some redonk turns here. In at number 4, Memolith. It's another card that uses Graft. It's got an action whereby you graft an action card from your hand onto Memolith, or trigger the play effect of an action card already grafted onto Memolith. So essentially, every turn that it's down and ready, you can put a card on it, or use a card on it. It's pretty gosh darned awesome. My only issue with this, the only reason it doesn't go higher, is because it's an artifact. So it goes into play exhausted. If you've got this in an Untamed deck, it is the second turn you get to actually use it. First you play it on your Untamed turn. Then the next Untamed turn you can graft an action card onto it. And then the third Untamed turn you can actually use it. And like we said back with Infomancer, grafting cards on and being able to use them at will is fantastic. But it's not always going to be enough. Or at least it's not going to be fast enough. I love being able to stash cards here and use them at will. I am not a huge fan of how slow this can end up being. And then, of course, if your opponent comes in with something like a remote access, for instance, then all of a sudden they can use it instead. And that's a very bad thing. Remote access just lets you use an opponent's artifact as if it were yours. Or your opponent can drop a Snack Lifter and steal it. Or they can drop a Barehanded and make you put it on top of your deck. There's quite a lot of artifact hate out there. In fact, in Worlds Collide, we ended up getting Hawk. And Hawk's a particularly good one. You destroy an artifact and gain an amber. And if they've done that before you've been able to use this, bad news bears. In at number 3, Orb of Wonder. Orb of Wonder's a very nice card. Incidentally, I think there's been another jump here. I think 2 and 3 are quite a bit above 4 and 5. It's got an Omni ability whereby you sacrifice it and then search your deck for any card. Keyforge doesn't have searching. Keyforge has an almost embarrassingly small amount of searching. Seriously, right, we're 3 expansions in, and there are 4 cards other than Orb of Wonder that let you search. Grumpus Tamer lets you search your deck or a discard pile, but only for War Grumpus, and put it in your hand. Help from Future Self lets you search your deck and discard pile, but only for a Time Traveler and put it into your hand. Bear Flute lets you search your deck and discard pile, but only for an Ancient Bear, and even then, only if there are no Ancient Bears in play. And the only one that is even comparable here is Saurus Rex, whereas if it's in the center of your battle line, when you fight or reap, you may exalt it and then search for any Saurian card. The idea of searching your deck for any card whatsoever is over the top dumb good. And the fact that it's an Omni ability, and you can use it for whichever house you like, means that you literally can wait for the turn where you need a card to jump ahead and just wait until you're in that house and then search for it. Orb of Wonder is ridiculous. Again, it's an artifact that goes down exhausted. You have to wait 1 turn, but no, it's silly good. In at number 2, Ghostform. It is an upgrade. It gives you an amber bonus, and it says that this creature gains invulnerable, i.e. it cannot be destroyed or dealt damage. Now, when you fight or reap, you then have to archive Ghostform, which is a little bit upsetting, but there is a little bit of a trick here, and that is to put it on a creature that has an action. So something like Yancey Gang has an action whereby you steal 1 amber. See where we're going with this? Just an example, any creature with an action will do. But now you've got invulnerable, but you don't have to archive Ghostform when you fight or reap, you just have an invulnerable creature. On anything else, essentially what happens is you can give it invulnerability, you can guarantee it stays on the field for a while, and then when you need to use it, and it doesn't even go away, it just gets archived. It's a little bit over the top good. Yeah, there's a few cards around that can specifically get rid of upgrades. Think things like Destroy Them All. Although that's an Age of Ascension deck with Mars in, and not that many people are playing those decks, frankly. But outside of that, this is a bit silly dumb. But the silliest, dumbest, bestest anomaly is Lateral Shift, and it isn't even particularly close. As always, huge shout out to the lovely people on the Facebook group for joining in with the poll. But the way it ended was Ghostform, second place anomaly, 22 votes. Lateral Shift, first place, 103 votes. It wasn't even close, and it shouldn't be. It is an action card that lets you look at your opponent's hand and play a card from that hand as if it were yours. And there's 3 things going on here. Firstly, you get to look at your opponent's hand. It gives you a lot of information. It means that you can make a really good prediction as to which house they're going to go for next turn. And it basically tells you all of their options. You can see their board. Now you can see their hand. Unless they've got an archive that you aren't able to guess what's in or deduce what's in there, you can basically tell what your opponent's going to do next turn. Secondly, when you play the card, it gets discarded. Your opponent's discard pile, not yours. You don't steal the card, you just play it. So you take the card out of their hand so they're not able to play it. And thirdly, you get to play an extra card. And not only does it not have to be from your active house, but it could be from a house that isn't even in your deck. I keep using Key Charge as an example just because it's a great card. You can play that even though you don't have Key Charge in your deck to cheat an extra key. Or you can play Miasma to slow your opponent down by making them not forge a key at the beginning of their next turn, even though you're not playing Miasma in your deck. Or you can play a Shatterstorm to wreck your opponent's stock of Amber, even though it's not in your deck. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. Lateral Shift, it's not just the best anomaly. That's underselling it. It is one of the very, very best Keyforge cards we've had in the first 3 expansions. Being able to look at your opponent's hand and being able to take a card out and being able to play an extra card out of turn, or out of house or whatever you want to call it. Still your turn, but very much out of house. Yeah. It is over the top, phenomenal, awesome. And I do think Lateral Shift is number 1 by a rather wide margin. But this is a stage, ladies and gentlemen, where I would very much like to know what you think about all of these anomalies, which one is your favourite, and of course, give me a top 10 if you like. I'd love to read it. Go nuts in the comment section, but remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy. That's where we talk about games, like Keyforge, but a bunch of others. And do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and do all kinds of fun stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.